Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Music of the Week. As always, we have 6 albums to go through, so let's go through 6 albums. We begin with a band that I can relate to. It has been named Agnostic Front, and I can relate to them because I'm agnostic and I have a very large front. Sort of hardcore punk band, sort of a older one. They've been around since the 80s roughly and have broken up a couple of times, but this is their 13th album and I'm giving it an 8. I think this is some proper good hardcore punk. I'll begin with the pacing. It is a bit on the fast side. In fact, I think this is one of the shorter albums of the past weekend. But it's the kind of punk that doesn't waste time, and I like it for not wasting time. It's got a really good flow to it as well, which I think really helps to bulk up the pacing when it matters. I also quite like the instrumentation. It's a really good use of hardcore punk leaning guitar riffs, some really good drums as well, and it does have some crossover thrash elements, but it leans more on the punk side, which I like. I also quite like the lyrics. There's a really good theme of socio-political commentary and a really good focus on not being put down by higher-ups. It does lack a bit of variety, admittedly, but it is ultimately a good theme. I do like the performances as well. The chemistry between the band is really solid, and I like frontman Roger Beret. The dude has a really good sort of barky Elvis style, and everyone else is really solid too. I also quite like the production, handled by someone named like Dijan or Dijan, spelled D-I-J-A-N. I have no clue if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I don't think I've covered their stuff before. I feel like I might have, but just might be forgetting. But I actually quite like the lack of overlayering. It really makes things stick out more, and I like the raw approach, and this style of hardcore punk really needs that sort of raw approach. And yeah, it's a really nice bit of hardcore punk. You know, I've reviewed a lot of bands this year that have been around a while. It has been a mixed bag of albums which I think should have been my first and some haven't been, but I think this is a really good first jumping on point for me to listen to Agnostic Front. I'd heard about them before, but I've never checked out an album for theirs, so yeah, it might be a really good first jump for you if you're even vaguely interested in this style of hardcore punk, because it's really good. I liked it at least. Next up, we have a band called Armor for Sleep with their new album, There Is No Memory. This is also a band I'd heard about before. This is a sort of emo, post-hardcore, sort of slightly dream pop rock sort of thing, and I'm giving this one a B+. I did give it a B+, I was just double checking. I quite like the main lyrical themes. I would actually say the lyrics are my favourite part. There's a really good theme of unpacking life experiences and, you know, going through them in the past to get to where they are now. It's got really good topics about mental health too, which I actually quite liked. I also enjoyed the performances, and I will highlight frontman Ben Jorgensen. He was really proper good here, but the entire band was really good too. And yeah, they fit this sort of style, and I also quite like the instrumentation. There's a really good post-hardcore lean, and I actually quite like the atmosphere. It makes for a really nice stylistic approach that I actually kind of like, and one that shouldn't work considering all the elements going in, but it works pretty well. Structure, I'm probably the least keen on. It is pretty good, but I feel like the first half mixes the styles a bit better, and the back end is kind of predictable and easy to see coming. Not in a bad way, it feels, you know, just a bit too familiar after a certain point in the album, but it's not terrible, and also I think the production is quite good too. It's mixed nicely, handled by one named Sam Guayana, who I don't think I've covered before, but you know, it is mixed nicely, even if it can feel a bit overprocessed at times, but I don't really mind that, and I think, again, for, you know, this is a band that's split up a few times since 2001. I do write the whole thing down here. I'm not going to read it all to you because it would take a bit too long, but yeah, this is their second album since reforming back in 2020. I do put that down. Yeah, I missed the last one. I quite like this one, and I feel like I should go over their older work to get a better feel for them. But I still feel like this was a solid enough first jumping on point for me. Next we have a band called Dream with their new album Is Your Friend. This is a band still quite early into their career. This is their third album. I think I covered their debut, I don't know, I definitely covered their last one. And I think of all of them, this might be my favourite of theirs. I'm giving this one an A, mostly because it's just so fucking nice to get this like new wave of hardcore bands that are just playing really happy music. Let's cover instrumentation first and go over the genre, you know, hardcore punk. It's one I quite like. I've gone on record as saying I like it the most, probably. Yeah, really like the crunchy feel of the guitar. There's really good breakdowns, and there's also a really nice sense of melodic fun too. I also quite like the lyrics. There's a really good main theme of uncertainty, which is kind of a dark theme, but the main topic around it is pressing on and being thankful for what you have despite what might or might not come in the future. And that's really what makes the writing work and actually adds a nice layer of optimism that doesn't feel fake. I also enjoy the production, handled by one John Moxon. Really like the open sort of approach, making things breeze by. It's a really sort of like fluid feel to the mix. I also quite like the pacing as well. Really nice twist in the formula, but it keeps a good through line and really nice flow. Maybe some songs can sound a bit too much like each other. Excuse the cars outside. but still really works well. And I really enjoy the fucking performances, especially guitarist Cody Chavez. The dude hits his marks really fucking hard and nails some nice solos, which I like because if there's a genre that I think needs more solos, it is hardcore punk, and I want more hardcore punk bands to do more solos, please, because it's really good. But yeah, I'm just happy that a band like this and bands like Avoid also exist, because I do like heavy music, but I want it to be happy and charming and silly, and this is occasionally happy and charming and silly. And, you know, if the album cover was enough indication of that, which I did double check is not AI, it's just really well drawn. So, you know, that it's got that going for it as well. But yeah, I'm just kind of tired of FM music being miserable these days, and I think since 2023 we've had like a solid break of. Well, 2023, we've had a solid break of, like, you know, bands not writing about the pandemic and the world of uncertainty that surrounded that. So it's just nice to have bands talking about happy shit, and I like it when bands do that, because we need more of it. And next up, we actually have a first this year, because this is a band who have actually previously given a professionally Jake-stamped Album of the Year award back in 2023. They'll be Pupil Slicer with their new album here, Fleshwork. And I do enjoy this. I'm giving it an A, mostly because I would just want to get it out of the way. My brain kept comparing this to Blossom, inherently. And I'll admit, Blossom is not an album I've listened back to a lot, but every time I listened to this, I was just thinking, it's kind of missing something, though, you know? I did ultimately still like it. Let's go over instrumentation. Really good focus on their heavy mathcore styles here, and it's more compartmentalised, and it's got really good guitar and drumming. I actually quite like that. I do like the pacing, probably not as much as everything else. It is quite heavy and has a really good sense of its flow. It doesn't really add too much new to things, which is, again, a problem I had with Blossom, because they add a lot of new shit that really works. I feel like there's not many risks here, but, you know, it's a good heavy style, and it's got a surprising amount of fluidity to it as well. I did still like the performances, and I think Kay Davis, like, they're an absolutely fucking phenomenal vocalist, and they go for more screaming, which I actually quite like. I do like their singing, but their screaming is a real strong point for them, and I love how they approach it. It's really well handled, and everyone else on band's great too. Also quite like the production, handled by one Joe Clayton. I'm bringing the producers a lot in this episode. Fine, why not? Quite densely put together, and works really well with the sound, giving it a huge amount of bulk, which I enjoyed. And also quite like the lyrics, focusing on the really happy themes of societal destruction, marginalisation, and systemic abuse. You know, the stuff that we're all here for to hear about. But, you know, this is a band that's always made their political leaning sort of known, and has, you know, never been afraid to bring that shit up. So, yeah, really good stuff there, honestly, and really strong and very open and honest writing to it, which I quite like. And again, yeah, I did like it, and I still recommend Pupil Slicer, mostly because they have a really good style and a really fucking cool name. But I don't know, man. I feel like it didn't go as mental as Blossom did, which is why I like that album so much. I still enjoy Fleshwork, and obviously I recommend it because Pupil Slicer are a very important band in modern English metal, British metal, modern metal in general, regardless of country. But if you've listened to Blossom, and if you like Blossom as much as I did, because I'm kind of crazy, you're not going to get the same levels, but it's still a really good album by a really good band, so I still recommend it. Next up, we have one of my all-time favourite tropes in music, which is when a band more than 3 albums into their career finally puts out a self-titled one. In this case, it would be Set It Off with their 6th album titled Set It Off, and I'm giving this one an A+. It's my favourite album of the past week and / weekend, and yeah, let's just go over why I like it. First of all, performances. I really like that everyone is really good, but let's just give all the flowers in the world to everybody, especially Cody Carson, the frontman. I mean, this might be his best performance. He's still a great singer, don't get me wrong. His rapping has massively improved, and he screams now. And I'm kind of, like, terrified slightly of bearded, buff eyeliner Cody. Like, I don't really know how to feel about it. I'm kind of frightened by him. And it's amazing how he's still a really nice bloke in interviews about this album, because this is probably the angriest that he's ever sounded, and he's so nice talking about it. It's really strange. But really solid work from him and the rest of the band. Also think the structure might be a weak point. I feel like some songs are way too short and a bit straightforward, but I actually quite like the heavy style. I like how it keeps things going, and the pace is mostly really, really sharp, which I quite like. The lyrics are also quite good. It might be the heaviest stuff that they've ever written, with the main theme being the destructive cycle of fame, and it's really done nicely with a middle finger vibe to the writing, and actually quite enjoy it. Also enjoy the production, handled by about 4 people. I didn't write down their names, I just wrote down it was done by 4 people. It's not any of the band members, because there's only 3 people and none of them helped produce it. Although it was self-released, so I find it weird that it wasn't self-produced. Anyway, yeah, I actually quite like the production. The mixing is really heavy and clean at the same time, knowing when to crank things up and when to let things go. It's really well handled. And the instrumentation is really solid too. I like the return to the heavy sort of pop punk and some emo and some good breakdowns and even some alt metal vibes at times. And it's got really nice drumming and really good guitar. And also, yeah, just really good shit all around. Just really, really good shit. This is probably their best album since, I would say, oh, maybe Midnight. I quite like Midnight. I did like Elsewhere, but you know, I'm more likely to go back to listen to Midnight. Definitely more likely to go back and listen to this. It's nice to hear a band who are just fucking genuinely passionate about what they're making, be able to make that thing on their own terms, and you can really feel that. And again, holy shit, Cody popped the fuck off on this one. Absolute, like, all the flowers to him, putting in one of the best performances maybe of the entire year. That's just me though. And finally, we have a band with a name I quite like, Teen Jesus and the Gene Teasers, with their second album, Glory. I covered their debut, and I quite like their debut. I like this one a little bit less. I'm giving it a B-, and I think it's mostly because of the producer. I've talked about this producer only once before, and I think that was enough because it was Catherine Marks that did this, and I hated the mix on Ricochet by Rise Against because Catherine Marks was the producer for that one, and for some reason they just decided to, you know, she decides to produce this thing, and it's not good. I don't like her production style. I've only heard 2 albums by Catherine, and I think as a producer she's broadly fine. I don't think she's amazing. She's won a fucking, like, I think she won a Grammy or some major music award or something, and I'm not sure why, because I'm not a fan of her production style. I did like the band though, I'll give them a lot of credit. I think they're probably the best thing about the album, and especially bassist Jada Stevenson, really good grooves from her. I mean, the entire band does their best. I do find the structure a bit weirdly put together. I like the energy, but the songs blur really easily and it gets really hard to tell them apart from each other, and it's not really like a sort of easy flow issue, it's sort of like a slow plodding, and it's weird that it feels slow because it's only 29 minutes 16 seconds. It's not a long album, but it feels a lot longer than it should be. I enjoy the instrumentation. I think the guitar and bass are quite nice, and there's a really occasional fluid feel to things. I like the usage of the drums. I think there's keyboard work, I might be wrong about that, but there's a really good approach to it, and this is a sort of a indie kind of punk rock band. It's really hard to fully say what they are. And I fairly enjoyed the lyrics. I think the themes of toxic relationships and queerness are really, really well, and sort of copies and expansions of the themes I explored on the last album, but I also feel like the tone of the writing is a bit inconsistent at times. I do like the writing, but I feel like the overall feel of it is a bit, like, off, a bit uneven at times, but yeah, I don't know. I was excited for their debut, and I like their debut, and I like this one, but I'm not as keen on it. It's weirdly rushed for how it feels, and like they're on a different label for this one, but can they please switch to like a different label and get a different producer? Because I just don't want Catherine producing any more things. This was still fairly enjoyable, and I think that Teen Jesus and the Gene Teasers have a great name and also have a ton of potential. They just really need to find the right person to bring it out of them. Next is favourite album cover and favourite song. Favourite cover probably goes to Drain with Is Your Friend. I just really like how colourful and vibrant it looks, and I like the detail of the name of the album cover being on like this record stereo, like next to the chair where the old shark lady is. It's just really good. Favourite song goes to Evil People by Set It Off. It might be the heaviest song they've ever fucking done, and on an album full of heavy songs, that is saying something. And next is next week's listening list. We have Band Quad with Wisher, Cheap Trick with All Washed Up, Call to Wall with Memories and Empties, The Devil Wears Prada with Flowers, Homefront with Watch It Die, and Pint Glass with Pint Glass, the album by Pint Glass. Yeah, that's what it's called. I'm kind of looking forward to that one. And that'll about do it from me. I will see you all tomorrow for Fight the God 7. The time has come, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a really fucking good show. Oh man, I hope it's a good show, because last time we were in Calgary it was not good. So I'm hoping this time in Calgary is a little bit better. And I'll see you all basically for that, and maybe more Tunic Let's Playing. Probably will be more Tunic Let's Playing on Twitch over the weekend at some point. As always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye bye.